Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to Wayne Bennett's Podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Bennett, and it's July the 31st, 2024. We're taping this, and this is episode 145. Today, our guest has been an athlete. He's an insurance rep. He's becoming a philanthropist and world champion golfer, I think. I don't know. But Cole Williams, welcome to our program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, your dad, David, is a state policeman, and he's been on the force for quite a few years. Did you ever think about going into law enforcement?
I did a lot growing up, actually. He's been doing it, I think, 25 years now. But growing up, I did. I loved it. I loved some of the stories he would tell me. Honestly, I think the invention of the cell phone and cell phone cameras kind of shied me away from that career. Truly, I just think sometimes their hands are tied, and I just ended up going a different path after that. But I did always want to be a lawyer. When I got away from, wanting to be a state trooper and being in law enforcement, I did kind of stay in that realm. And honestly, I still have hopes of maybe one day, once the insurance thing's hung up, going back to school and still becoming an attorney one day.
Oh, that's good. Now, you played a lot of sports as a youth. Did you ever think about coaching?
I did, and I've dabbled in it last year. I finally got back involved with wrestling. I was helping out a little bit, but I think I'm very obsessive, and right now, just with my career taking off and everything I have on my plate, if I'm going to coach, I want to be all in on coaching and just have all the time in the world to focus on it. And right now, I just can't dedicate that time. Those kids deserve someone that has the time to dedicate all of it to them.
Now, I saw your dad as a kid play sports, and he used to hang around the house sometimes. And I never had the opportunity to coach you. I saw you play a few sports, and about the time you came along at Park Junior High, middle school, that's about the time I got into administration,
Mm-hmm.
and I never got the opportunity. I think we would have worked well together. You have a lot of grit, and that's the kind of people I like. And I was fortunate enough to have some good athletes and good teams. And who was when you got to Park? Who did coach you at Park in football and wrestling?
Football was Steve Kidd, I believe, was the coach, and Coach Bean, if you remember him, he helped out at that time, and Coach Reeves was at the football. And then wrestling, the first coach I had was Matt Epling.
Uh-huh.
And that was when, at the time, we were mixing Beckley, Stratton, and Park because we didn't have enough kids. So that was kind of neat, actually, to be able to meet some of them kids from Stratton. But Scott West as well was a huge help. Still to this day, I keep in touch with Scott. I love that guy. But Matt Epling was the original coach at Park.
Yeah. Now, you had some good coaches. In youth sports, what was the first sport you ever played?
T-ball. I think I was 4. I started playing T-ball. I tried soccer, hated it. I wanted to quit, but my parents made me finish the season. Never went back. But I did love T-ball. I played T-ball, Pony League, all the way up. Was the first sport I really got into.
Now, you had some success young. I know when you were 9 or 10, you played for the Saints, and you guys won the Little League Championship, minor league, or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, Saints we won, and then we were on the Giants was the last year at Beckley Little League, and we went undefeated. And then that All-Star year, we were one game away from being able to go to like the big tournaments. But we had a really good team back then. It was fun. Stan Unrow and Randall Puckett were the coaches, and they coached me pretty much from T-ball all the way through till I got into Babe Ruth in high school.
You had the same coach, Dave Puckett?
Yeah, it was Randall Puckett and Stan Unrow. Yeah, he kept us. It was me, him, Parker, Luke Rodriguez, John Mark Bacho, a couple of us. We stayed together the entire way, and then we had to split up at high school. I know Luke ended up pursuing soccer, and Parker ended up transferring to Shady. But yeah, we stayed together. I think that's why the team was so good, is it was the same kids all the way through.
Now, when you played Little League, but for the Giants, you guys were like 14-0, and I think you pitched. You were like 10-0 pitching. But you kind of got away from pitching as you got older. Why?
Just shoulder problems. just ransacked, honestly, all the careers, the football, baseball, and wrestling even. But just throwing the ball that hard over and over again, I think it just wore down on me. Plus, with baseball being right after wrestling season, it wasn't a good combination at the end of the day. So I ended up in high school, I was just a designated hitter, which was awesome. I just got to sit in the dugout and cheer the team on, walk up there and hit the ball and run the bases and go right back to the dugout. You know, a lot of people would say something like, man, you're not getting any playing time. I was like, I have the best position there is. So I just get to sit in the dugout and watch the sport I love and get a hit every inning. So I kind of got away from the throw, and it just was wearing down my shoulder.
Was it just one shoulder, the right shoulder, that you had problems with? That you injured it or just wore it down?
I broke my arm in 7th, going into 8th grade. Me and Dad was up at Penn State at a travel tournament in the off season, and I broke my left arm. And I think from there on, I just put so much power and stress on my right arm, as crazy as that sounds, that it kind of started wearing it down. And then sophomore year of high school, I had a significant shoulder injury in football. And that's really just after that, throwing a baseball really wasn't it for me. I was able to, still wrestle and play football, but there was a lot of pain that came along with that. It was just an AC joint and collarbone injury that just never really healed to this day.
What was your favorite pro team growing up? I mean, baseball and football.
I'm a Cincinnati Reds and a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I'm used to losing. It taught me toughness growing up, is just getting my hopes up.
You're the Reds this year are really hurting, and of course, if you grew up in my day around here, you had to be a Reds fan, and they're hard to follow sometimes. But I was with them in the good times too. So it's in Dallas. No, I've never been a fan of. I'm a Redskin or Commanders. And have been since the early 60s, but neither one of them have done a whole lot to brag about, I don't think. In baseball, you played some travel ball, you Triple SA, laser graphics, and so you've kept busy, and you wrestled with the youth team, the Young Guns. How'd you get started over there?
Actually, my brother was wrestling for Park Middle School, and they had a wrestling camp, I believe, at Oak Hill High School. And I was in 1st or 2nd grade, and I went out there, and there was a kid named Bubba Smith that I'm still really close with. He wrestled at Oak Hill, and he thumped me. And I just remember going home and crying to my mom and telling her that Bubba whooped me all day. And the very next year, I enrolled because I didn't want that to happen anymore. So from there, I met Cliff Warden and Jughead and all those guys out there and got involved, and it changed my life. If it wasn't for wrestling, I don't think I'd be doing anything that I'm doing right now. So it was easy to fall in love with, easy to get dedicated to. But Young Guns, I wish they'd bring it back. I've heard that they might be bringing it back, but I know it saved a lot of kids' lives over there, getting them enrolled in that and started at a young age.
Yeah, I'd heard that they had consolidated, in the Southern Coalfields youth program, and then I heard that the Young Guns might come back into a separate entity now, and I really think that there's enough interest out there for everybody, to Beckley Central and all of them, to have teams again, but it's finding coaches and places to practice and those kind of things that makes it really difficult. But wrestling has been big around here. It has been. Independence had quite a run in a 10-year period. Beckley's doing great right now, but it all goes back to the youth programs and how they come up. What about what kind of music did you listen to when you were in high school and stuff?
I was a huge jazz fan. I caught a lot of crap for it sometimes, but I just love jazz and blues. Old school. Benny King. Bill Withers, that type of just funk music almost. But for me, I was always riled up. I was always wiry and just ready to get after it. So I had to listen to calm down music. Some of my friends were always listening to hard rock or upbeat rap. But for me, if I was in the gym, that was great. But if I'm just driving around town listening to that, I'm too rowdy to just be bumping that all the time. So I just laid back. And even some of the old school country, the newer pop country, not really for me, but the Waylon Jennings, the Highwaymen, stuff like that. Just soothing music's really what I love.
Yeah, jazz is something that you just you either like it or you don't like it. It's kind of like there's no in between hardly, But we had Jerry Zafratis on here a few weeks ago, and Jerry started playing harmonica and got into the blues and that kind of stuff. And he's tough. He didn't get into it till he was 60 years old, and he's a really talented fella. Now in football, who'd you first play with? Southwest?
It was the Southwest Bandits. Keith Stevens was my first coach. I think it was B team was when I first started playing football. I wanted to play younger. I was just very small and thought I was big, so they waited till I hit a little growth spurt. But Southwest is where I started.
Who else was coaching with that?
Ramon Edwards, senior. Ramon, his son, grew up with me and graduated high school with me, but he was the coach with Keith Stevens, is who coached me. I think our last year, I don't think we got scored on the entire season.
Really?
But there was some freak athletes that came through Southwest. And at the time, East Beckley was big as well. We had some great games with them growing up.
Park, you guys had some pretty good teams too, didn't you? With Coach Kidd. When you went to Woodrow, your senior year, even with a lot of injuries that you had gone through, you were injured in football, you were injured in wrestling, injured during baseball season, but you guys still went to states, all three teams, which baseball was a little rarer than the other two sports. But one of your best games that I can remember, you were a running back, and one of the best games though was you had 104 yards rushing against Princeton. And then there was, you ran back punts and kickoffs too. And then there was one time I don't know whether it's the same game, but you got a 51-yard pass for a touchdown with Andrew Johnson tossing to you. Of course, he can make anybody look good.
Oh, yeah. Andrew was the man.
Now, he went on to Glenville State, didn't he?
He played basketball at Glenville State.
Yeah.
And they actually came to Alderson Broadus and played a couple times. So that was awesome getting to see him there and cheer him on. So,
I wonder what he's doing now.
I believe he's in Florida. I'm not 100% certain. He came in last year, and I got to see him for a little bit. But I'm pretty sure he's in Florida. I know he's out of state. His wife ended up becoming an acrobatics and tumbling coach at a college, and they moved away to pursue that for her.
Oh. Now, you mentioned your brother. Who was, you have other siblings? You have a sister?
Yeah, I have a little sister, Emily. She cheerleaded all the way through. And she also, she's a special needs teacher now, but she started a special needs dance or cheerleading program in high school. I believe they were called the Sparklers, but it was a special needs team that would do halftime performances and stuff, and that was awesome. And then I have an older brother that lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, like Durham area.
What does he do?
It's a great question. I actually don't know.
Still looking?
Yeah, he's been down there for a long time. His kids actually just came in. I just got to see my nephews this weekend. They came in and visited. But he's been down in Durham probably for more than 10 years now.
Well, your dad lived in Myrtle Beach for a while when he was...
That's where I was born. Yeah,
really?
I was born in Surfside. I think we came here when I was 4 or 5 years old, but that's where I was born at, was Surfside.
Now, after you graduated at Woodrow, well, you were at Woodrow, you were class president, weren't you?
I was.
Which class?
2013. Yeah, I was student body president, so like student government. The class president was Brianna Booker. Her dad's a longtime cop around Beckley as well, but she was the class president. I was the student government president.
Oh, I see. Okay. And now, why you decided to go to Alderson Broadus? Why?
Looking around, I had a couple baseball offers. Football, after the last shoulder injury, just it kind of got around, and also I just wanted to hang that up. And then Mitch Smith actually. My senior year of wrestling, I wrestled one tournament because I had to be able to qualify for regionals. So I wrestled one tournament, I wrestled regionals, and I wrestled states, and that was it. And Mitch Smith had came up to me, and I was telling him about the injury and everything I was going through, and he brought me up for a visit. And honestly, I didn't really think about going to college. I didn't. I was thinking about going to the military. I was thinking about just getting into the workforce immediately and getting a jump start. But after meeting him and him buying me into the program, and also the class size, that was one thing I was worried about with college was being in a class with 200, 300 people. It's easy to not go. At Alderson Broadus, my teachers would text me if I wasn't in class. It was that small. I think my biggest class was maybe 26 people.
You couldn't sneak out.
No, and it made it really easy to learn. It made it hands-on. And I think that was the real thing that sold me, was just getting that education, because I wasn't up there to waste, my money, my parents' money, or, what coach invested in me. I wasn't going to let anybody down. So being able to focus, and really all there was to do is go to school and go to the Tigard River and fish. And I love fishing. I learned to love to read, so that's why I went there.
Now, who was your roommate at Alderson Broadus?
Micah Powell from Point Pleasant. He's, I believe he was a state champ. If not, he was in the finals a couple times. And then Davis Solak from Greenbrier County. Those were my roommates pretty much all the way through from freshman to senior year. We stayed together.
Is it true David had a deer hanging up in your dorm room?
Yes. Yeah, we caught some slack for that. But Davis had killed a deer on campus and then drug it across campus. There was a blood stain all throughout Alderson Broadus, and they found it hanging up in front of our dorm skinned. So we had to answer some questions to that one and learn not to hunt on campus property ever again.
Well, since the school's closed now, they won't get statute of limitations is over, I guess. But Alderson Broadus had started a football program and everything. You ever think about playing baseball? Try to play baseball there? Or was just too much?
My shoulder, even wrestling at that point was just hard on me. My freshman year, it wasn't that bad. Sophomore year, it kept getting worse, and just, honestly, until I found the job that I'm at now, I'd kind of lost that just umph. My shoulder just wouldn't do what it wanted to do. I was watching kids that I just dominated in high school go on to be All-Americans and multiple state champs in high school. And, it's kind of daunting on me. It's something I invested my whole life in, and just seeing people pass me up. I was just such a competitor. It was hard to swallow. But as far as baseball, there was just no way. It was everything I could do to keep going to wrestling practice with my shoulder.
Now, what did you get a degree in from?
Business administration and a minor in marketing.
And when did you graduate from Alderson Broadus?
Would have been 2016, I believe, was the year.
Yeah. Did you think at the time, did you have any idea that they might end up closing the school down?
To be honest, yes. There was some talks around school, like my junior year, about, some funds missing. I think, not to give any names, but I think some people pocketed a lot of money that shouldn't have been. And then also, that being because my grandmother went to that school. Sally Lieber, my grandmother, she went to Alderson Broadus years ago. So to me, it was a prestigious college. When I first went there, it was a private Baptist school. So then when they turned into a university and brought in all those students, I don't know if their thought was bringing on a sports team would save them or what. But you definitely saw a shift from my freshman year to sophomore year where they brought in all those programs. I don't know if it was just too much for them to take on at once, or it was just kind of clustered at times. So you could definitely tell something was going on. But when I found out the news that they did close down, I couldn't believe it. I figured somebody would have figured it out and stepped in. But, right after they closed, I ordered leads. With my company, we can kind of work wherever we want. I ordered leads in Philippi and Buchanan just because I want to ask the townspeople, what they thought. And I pray for Philippi every day. There's some of the nicest people, just down to earth people, would come to our wrestling matches and support us just because it was in Philippi, would take me to fishing holes back in the woods and show me around. And, it's devastating to them. That college kept them running. In Philippi, you got a covered bridge, a gas station, a McDonald's. That's about it. So they banked on those college kids, and I don't know what's going to buy out the school or what they're going to take it in there, but I just hope and pray some kind of big something comes to Philippi because they need it. The people there need something like that, bringing business to them.
Yeah, I've been up there several times, and then we would go to Philip Barber, and I went up there one time to a wrestling camp. I helped one day up there at a camp, and I think some business bought the school for practically nothing, and hopefully they can keep the economy going long enough. But that's the sad part about colleges in West Virginia. For a state that has the population that we have, I still think we have too many colleges, I mean, and I don't see how they survive actually. And the internet might help some of them. People can take classes without actually living there and coming there. But it just seems like we have, just in our area alone, I don't, you got New River and Valley and WVU Tech and Bluefield State, and I mean and Concord, all within 30-mile radius almost, and I just don't see how they all make it. And I think Aldous and Broadus had got down to like 700 students, but it was a beautiful school, beautiful campus, and
I think the first year I went there, Woodrow had more students than the college that I went to, which was kind of funny to me.
Well, when WVU Tech first came into Beckley, they were projected in 5 years they would have 2,200 students, and they haven't reached that yet. And they've been there longer, and it hasn't grown like they thought it would. And yeah, I remember when the guy at Aldous and Broadus came in, they brought football, and they had offered all these sports, and yeah, I thought, well, something's going good, but then it just, and, right now, Bluefield State's kind of doing the same thing, and we'll see how it goes. But now, after you got your degree, what did you go into? You had to go to work.
Yeah, honestly, the reason I went the business route, I went there originally to be a PA. Aldous and Broadus was a well-known school for PA school. Getting my first foray in there, it would have been easier to get into the program. I got into organic chemistry my second year and decided I did not want to go to PA school. It whooped my butt. I failed like 3 tests in a row, and I went to the counselors and said I wanted to be a teacher because I was like, I'll be a coach and a teacher. And I think I went to 1 day of classes and went right back in there and said, nope, I'm not going to do this.
No other classes.
Switched to business. But honestly, looking around, I saw that, as long as I passed my LSAT, it didn't matter what the 4-year degree I had as long as I had one. So I went the business route mainly to get into law school and then eventually open my own practice was my original plan. Right my senior year, wrestling ended around Christmas time. It was coming to a close. And one of my friends was working in Morgantown as his insurance place and said, man, you should try this out. Well, I was so used to 5 a.m. practices, 12 o'clock study hall, 5 p.m. wrestling. It was such a strict schedule with sports that when that went away, I was going to get in trouble or do something that I shouldn't be doing. There was just too much time on my hands. So my last semester, I actually worked full-time at the insurance place while I was a student. I ended up killing it. I loved it. I loved meeting people. I loved selling people. And also, with life insurance, what I was doing, it's not like I was selling someone a vacuum or a used car that was going to break down. They were going to pass away, and my company since 1951 was going to pay for the funeral. So for me, I felt like I was helping people. So I wasn't just pushing some product they didn't need. And I took off with it. I made a lot of money that second semester. Ended up getting a place in Morgantown right after, decided, why would I go to law school if I'm already making more than my friends that have already graduated from law school? And I just pursued it. And I ended up doing that for about a year in Morgantown, and they said, you're doing really great, go to Nashville, and try it out there, and sent me to Nashville at 23 years old to open an office.
Wow. You're connected with Sigmund McLean.
So my mom used to, I think she was a secretary there, and she also sold for him when Bob and Bill were still around. She's actually at Old Colony now, but she had all the ties with the real estate there. I'm with Globe Life. American Income's the official company I've been with for 8 years. Globe, we used to be owned by Torchmark. They were like our shareholders. Globe bought out Torchmark, so they didn't really buy out my company, but they are our shareholders, so we can still claim the Globe Life name, which is awesome because the World Series was played on that field last year, and also the All-Star game at Globe Life Stadium down in Waco, Texas. So that's our larger company, the parent company, Globe Life, but American Income's the official company I work for.
Well, what about these? Explain to me about these insurance companies that they're buying out. They buy out other insurance. I bought a policy. I think it was a whole life policy years ago, and I think it's been sold 3 times to bigger companies, and maybe Metropolitan Life owns it now, but or something.
Was it People's and then went to Monumental and then Transamerica?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that company specifically, Peoples was around in the 80s, really big company. It's actually what my dad and his sister had. And then they got bought out by Monumental because they weren't able to pay out their death claims. Monumental took them over. Monumental got behind and was unable to pay out their death claims. Transamerica stepped in. Transamerica is actually in a very large lawsuit right now. That company will probably be changing their names again pretty shortly. But sadly, when you see that happening, something's not going right, anytime. It's kind of like, and it's the sad truth of how America works sometimes, but a coal mine goes bankrupt and all these guys lose their benefits, and then the same owner opens it in a different name in his wife's account. That's kind of what's happening in the insurance business is they're going under, but they just reopen in another name and everyone gets screwed at the bottom. Thankfully, my company's been American Income since they started in 1951. The partnership with Globe Life was great for us, but they didn't like buy us out, or weren't able to keep up with our business. But sadly, that does happen. That's one of the best things that I like to do is, not only just selling people that don't have it, but a lot of people that have life insurance have no idea how it works. And then they're the ones that get that letter in the mail when they're 70 and can't even qualify for it at this point. Hey, thanks for all your money the last 30 years, but we're no longer insuring you. So being able to open somebody up, get them to trust me and allow me to look through their policies and show them the black and white, because these insurance people can tell you anything they want. If it's not in black and white, that's all that matters. So that's my favorite thing, is getting to the bottom of it and seeing, well, I hate to break it to you, but your little nephew sold you something that you didn't think it was. This is how it actually works.
So you're used to working in the evenings and weekends if you have to, and calling on people. That's the most when you do that. Are there ups and downs in insurance? I mean, how does that work?
I almost quit twice in my first 2 years. My first week, now everything's virtual. So during COVID, they opened it to where we can do DocuSigns and meet with people over Zoom. So I'd say 90% of the people that work for me, they don't leave the house. Which to me, it's crazy because I'll hear these complaints about phones, no one picking up. And I'm just thinking, man, I used to drive to Parkersburg every day for my appointments, because back then you had to go to their house. So we'd get a lead pack wherever it was, Wheeling, Parkersburg, Bluefield. And that's where I'd be at for the whole month, driving back and forth. My very first week, I went 0 for 12. I drove to Parkersburg every day and got told no, and drove back to Morgantown. And I remember calling my mom that Friday night, and I said, I don't think this is for me. I'm not doing good at this. I don't think it's for me. And she said some strong words to me, pretty much told me I'm not a quitter, and humble terms is what she said. But she went back to the soccer and everything else. She's like, we've never let you quit. You got to at least give it 30, 60 days, see how it plays out. And funny enough, the next day after I called my mom, told her I thought I was going to quit, I made $3,000 that Saturday in sales. So after that, I never really looked back. The transition going into Nashville was the hardest part, because then I'm going from just, sales aspect, and that's why I loved wrestling, transitioning it. Because in wrestling, if I get my butt whooped, I can't blame the quarterback. I can't blame the point guard. I got my butt whooped on that mat. When sales, if I didn't make the sales quota that week, I can look back and say, well, I didn't put in the time I needed to. I didn't knock on enough doors. I didn't make enough calls. So it was an easy transition. But when I went to Nashville, at that point, I was in leadership. I was having to recruit people, train them, teach them how to do it. And I think that was the hardest part for me, is realizing not everyone has the same motor as me. Not everyone has the same, goals as me. And having to be able to work with someone that has smaller goals and not be on them all the time, pressuring them, and just understand that's okay if that's what they want. But that was the biggest transition for me, was, getting out of the sales, more into teaching it, and coaching and having patience with people. People nowadays, sadly, it just seems like they don't want to work at all. But going through those lumps and bounds, pouring months into someone just for them to up and quit, having to go through those adversities as a leader, that was the hardest thing that I faced at the job, more so than the sales aspect.
Do you guys sell any other kind of insurance, like car and house or anything like that?
We do have, some health insurance products, like cancer plans, where someone gets cancer and the medical won't cover it all, we'll cover the rest. Some like accidental, where if you get in an accident, go to the hospital, we'll pay your family so much while you're out of work. But mainly we just specialize in life insurance. We don't really advertise. We're contracted with pretty much all the unions, UMWA, nurses, teachers, state police, anybody that's a union label, that's our lead source. And And, where we don't advertise, our price is a lot lower than what's on the open market. So we've always just specialized in life insurance. I've talked to a lot of people and they told me I'm crazy for only doing life, that if I'd open it up and be a broker or have all these other things, I'd have a lot more business. But me personally, I can be good at 5 sports or I can be great at one. And I feel like I'm really great and understand the life insurance. And I really like it. Like I said before, I don't think I could push car insurance on somebody. I just don't. I don't think I could push health insurance on somebody. With life insurance, you're going to pass away. And a lot of people don't understand how costly that is. Funerals are not cheap. And, for someone to set aside $40, $50 a month rather than $15,000 when their dad passes away, it's a no-brainer. And to me, I feel like I'm helping them, not just pushing some product. I think that's the main reason I haven't ventured off into other insurances. I just don't have the passion to tell someone they need car insurance because I think I just don't really believe in car insurance myself.
Well, you answered a question I had about maybe what your strength was or your weakness was. Now, you are now becoming a philanthropist. You're entering this Dancing with the Stars, which is a huge fundraiser for the American or United Way. And I'm a big fan of United Way. I've always contributed my little fund to them. I actually, back in the old days, each school had a representative, and we could talk to the employees, and they would hold money out of their salary, but the state put a nix to that, and they don't do that anymore. But I was representative for several years, but the Dancing with the Stars is a huge fundraiser. Plus, it's a very entertaining event. How did you get into this?
It had been brought up for a couple of years. My mom's always helped out with United Way. She just recently became, a board member there. But I've always grown up just donating and helping. And, the United Way to me, I just love that everything stays here. A lot of times when we raise this money and do stuff, sometimes you just question, like, where did it go?
Especially when the director's making $10 million a year or 20.
Not only that, because at the end of the day, I have mixed feelings about that. For one, with as many people as they help, I think they should get paid. Do I think it's $10 million? No. But some of the people, I understand it. But with the United Way, it stays here. Last year, I think the numbers was close to $800,000 raised. Almost every dime stayed in Southern West Virginia. So when I saw that and I saw those numbers and they were going over, I was like, I got to be a part of this. And, before I was kind of traveling a lot. Now I'm finally getting to a point where I can settle down and golf more and do a couple extra things. And the real kicker for me was Brent Osborne did it last year. Brent, I watched him grow up. I've been right beside him. We went through some family tragedies together and a lot of great times together. And just watching how much fun he had and that spark that he used to have screaming at people on the football field, I was like, I think I might want to do that. And then when I found out he broke the record and raised $84,000 last year, my competitive switch kicked on, and I was like, we can beat that. So, the dancing's fun. The dancing's hard. I never realized dancing was as hard as
How
it
much
is.
do you practice? You gotta.
We've been doing 2 days a week. I think we need more. It's a lot harder than I thought it was. But the fundraising, really, for me and Jamie, my partner, that's been the whole focus. Is we're gonna have fun. We're definitely gonna put on a show and not take the dancing lightly or not serious. But all these fundraisers, it's just so fun to see everybody come together. People I haven't seen in years that watch me play sports come and support me with this.
What kind of fundraisers have you had?
We had a golf tournament at Willowwood. That was a great turnout. It was a rainy day and still had a great turnout. We have one coming up on the 26th of August at Grandview. That's going to be a big one. We have a poker run coming up, a motorcycle run. That'll be on the 24th of August. But we had a cash bash, and that was our biggest one. We had a huge turnout for that.
Was that you did a John Deere thing too?
That was something separate, but yeah, we Lowe's, I believe the Princeton Lowe's it was, donated the John Deere tractor, and we were able to raffle that off, and then the guy that won it actually donated it back, so we got to raffle it off twice, which was awesome.
Oh, wow.
Now the second guy that won it, he took it and ran. But yeah, we've done the cash bash, the golf tournaments. We have a paint and sip coming up with Gary Vaughn, who's been on the podcast. He's going to do that for us on the 25th of August, so like I said, just seeing everybody come together and help out. And every time we run one of these events, just the amount of people that come pouring in to help out, it's it just makes me very, very happy and just feel loved. Yes, it's for the United Way, but seeing all these people come out and support me and Jamie, it just shows you who West Virginia is and what we are. We always stand together when we need to.
Well, Jamie and her husband,
Jeff,
they contribute to a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
over the years, with the different charities, and but it is competitive. I've got a buddy, buddy Bernie Ballstick. He's in it.
He's in it
He
this
said the
season.
same thing. The dancing is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And at least you got a little youth on your side. He's in his 60s, but they're doing paint parties and all kinds of things. Usually at the event itself, I mean, it's a gala, big time. People dress up. It's good food. It's good entertainment, and good luck with that. And that's in September, last of September, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have 2 weddings. I have a wedding the weekend before the dance, and then a wedding after. I'm in 2 weddings back to back. So maybe I can show my moves off out on the dance floor at the wedding.
How old are you? You're a young guy.
20, just turned 29. So
Okay,
I think
you're
we'll stay
29
for a couple more years.
I think you're still too young to have a bucket list, but what do you expect in the near future? Something you'd like to do that you haven't done, or something you can, besides make $1 million and all that, something you'd like to do here in the near future?
My whole goal, especially when I got into insurance and saw how lucrative it was, I wanted to be in a spot where I wasn't living lavish, but I could live comfortably by 35, 40 and just put all my time in the community. For me personally, I've lost too many friends. I've lost too many people that had a lot of potential that just wasted it here. It's like a running joke almost. And to me, it's just not funny, but you hear it all the time. You could get a pickup team in Woodrow Wilson for football, and they'd compete with the actual football team. You could get a pickup team with basketball, and they'd run right around with the basketball team. But those kids, they don't have the grades. They're not playing sports. And for me, whether it's a youth program that, is sports-based, because I've seen sports save so many lives. Just that I don't, and not to go on a rant, but I personally, nothing against mental health. I know it's a real thing and people struggle with it, but I think we have more of a self-discipline problem in America than a mental health problem. And I think getting kids into sports at a young age just teaches them that accountability. It's always someone else's fault. It's always point the finger. And, my coaches at a young age, we're running sprints. You're running hills. You don't talk back. You're taught, the proper things in sports. So, my ultimate goal would be to get maybe a sports program together where they're teaching them those right things, or ultimately, some kind of youth program, if it's not sports, to just help these kids out. Sadly, a lot of them, they didn't even have internet at home. So in the homework, it wasn't that they didn't want to do it. Some of these kids didn't have electricity. Some of them weren't eating unless they were at school. I remember when some winter storms would hit, kids would go 4 or 5 days without food because that's where they got their food, was school. And with all the help that you see come forward for the United Way, we could do something like that as a community. I know we could. I've seen it firsthand with all this money we've raised. So, I think getting a program together, maybe an after-school program for some of them kids that, just don't have anyone helping them fill out college applications. A lot of these kids could go to school for free. They just don't know the avenues that they can go. So, getting some program together where we could do that for them, whether it's a sports or whether it's just an after-school, but something's got to change. There's too much talent. There's too much just young, people that are locked up or dead. And it's all, for me, a lot of it happened with some of my high school friends, 25 years old. I'd been to 10 funerals. And if there's anything that I could do to change that, if there's any advice anyone out there listening that has helped with things like that could, pour into me and help me. But being able to look back in 40 years and say I saved that kid's life, I think that's my ultimate bucket list. Is even if it's 5 kids, it's 5 kids that aren't in prison or dead, and to say that I did that, help with that, I'd say that would be my ultimate goal.
I got to ask you, what do you think about the new scoring system? The college has picked up with the takedowns and things like that. What do you think about that kind of stuff?
I don't like changing stuff. I don't. I see the point to try to get more points on the board to make it more exciting, but I'm just old school. I don't think they should have changed it. I know getting involved this year, helping out the middle school, there was a couple times something happened and I was just confused. And Mark Ward was coaching Independence Middle School. I was out there with him, and he would have to break it down like, hey, it doesn't work like that anymore. And then watching the NCAA finals this year, I seen someone hit a 5-point move, and I was like, wish that was there when I was in school. That would have been nice. But
yeah, the high schools are becoming more college. They're pretty much adopting their rules and things. But it's hard. It is difficult to keep up with. I'm been around wrestling for 60 some years, and they changed the weight classes so much I can't keep up with the weight classes. And some poor parent that's coming in here with no experience at all, and they get used to one weight class and then they change it the next year. And I mean, I feel really sorry for them. But what about the NEAL program or paying college athletes? What do you think about that? Again,
I think it's terrible, personally. I mean, I get it, because looking back, like the Pat White, Steve Slayton, Owen Schmidt days, what they did for WVU and in the national spotlight. If someone buys their jersey, I could see that, name and likeness. But the way that they're paying these kids, the schools like Marshall University and WVU, they're just not going to compete with the Georgias and Alabamas. So personally, if they're going to keep doing it, I think there should be 2 separate divisions. Let those huge schools with the huge donors just beat the crap out of each other every year and have their own national title. And then have a separate division where the people that aren't raking in billions to give to their kids, let them compete separately. Because yes, you're going to have an underdog story, but at the end of the day, if you're paying these kids like they're paying them, we're not going to compete on a national level at WVU and Marshall until they fix it.
They'll keep referring to super conferences anyway, and it's almost getting that direction. But I'm keeping my eyes open. I just hope the sports like wrestling don't get thrown to the side, with and SEC already doesn't have wrestling, but I'm hoping that. Well, Cole, I sure appreciate you coming and talking to me. We've covered several different subjects, and good luck in your Dancing with the Stars. And if I don't make it to the event, I think my wife's talking about going, but she'll take plenty of pictures, and I'm sure we'll see plenty. But don't use both your left feet when you're dancing. But anything else you'd like to comment on?
Just a big thank you to you for everything you've always done. I remember being a kid, and I think it was Sunday mornings maybe, you'd wake up and you just couldn't wait to see if you were in your article in the Registered Herald. Getting your name put in there for the wrestling article, you did it weekly. That was like a dream come true. So when you called and asked me to do the podcast, I honestly just felt like a little kid again, looking through the Registered Herald, seeing if my name got in the paper. So everything you've done for wrestling, everything you've done for the community, the Bennett Foundation, everything that you've done for us, I thank you. My generation thanks you. I know my dad's generation can't thank you enough, but you're loved by many and respected by more. So just thank you for everything you've done for all of us.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. And Gary Faulber has done a great job, and he's kind of picked up the slack. We didn't have a lot of people writing about wrestling, and that's one of the reasons I got started. And now Gary's come along the last 20 some years and does a great job. So we can't complain too much around here. We get good wrestling coverage, and I sure appreciate him a lot. But well, thank you for coming, and anytime you want to come back, we'll get you on here. I enjoyed it. And anybody else out there that'd like to be on our program, we'll get you on here. Just hit me up at awbennett50@gmail.com. And remember, until then, if you're not dead yet, you're not done yet. And God bless you.